Hello everyone! Welcome back to the last video of my wedding series. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to plan your own wedding using only 3 simple tools. And because I know you're so busy and overwhelmed, I linked everything below. And I have timestamps, so if you don't want to watch everything, just hop around to whatever is relevant to you. And with that, let's begin. Okay, so if you're watching this video, you most likely are not looking to hire a wedding planner. But just because you're not getting a wedding planner does not mean you should not think about getting a day of coordinator. A wedding planner and a day of coordinator are 2 different things, okay? A wedding planner is there to plan your entire wedding, and she's there from start to finish. And then a day of coordinator is really only there the day of your wedding. Now, they can come in and help you prep and do things the week of, the month before your wedding, or 2 months before your wedding. It just really depends on what kind of contract you work out with them. Now, I did not hire a wedding planner. It was just way out of my budget. It was also a smaller wedding and it was local. I live in Brooklyn. I had my wedding in Brooklyn, so I didn't really need a wedding planner / I could not afford a wedding planner. Now, I hired Joy. She was the best, most amazing person to work with. I mean, that woman loves her job and she takes her job so serious. Like, I did not have to worry about a thing the day of my wedding. The way that I forgot about everything that was supposed to happen, like, I was just living in the moment. I gave Joy this binder. It literally had everything that she needed to do her job in here, and I never saw her again. So if you're still on the fence about whether or not to get a day of, I cannot stress enough and I cannot recommend you enough to really get one, because you don't want to be working your wedding. You don't want your family members to be working the day of your wedding. It's also a special day for them. They are watching someone they love get married, and you don't want them to be worrying about the doors opening and closing, the timeline, getting all the vendors situated. Like, you don't want anyone working that day that should not be working. So I highly recommend you get a day of. Okay, now let's talk about the 3 tools that helped me stay organized and not lose my mind. The first thing I used was this free Google template for budgeting and tracking my expenses. I did add some extra rows just to track how much we were spending and how much over budget we were, because we did go over budget. The next thing I used was my master timeline. Now, this is not a Google template. I created this, but I'm sure Google has something out there similar to this. But if you want to use my timeline, it is linked below. And then the last thing I did, because I am such a visual person and I know how hard and overwhelming it can be to see a timeline this big with all these words and numbers and letters, I made my timeline into a visual deck, and that is what is in this binder right here. So in order to do your timeline, you need to have everything booked and finalized, because when you book your vendors, you are booking them for a certain time frame. And the way that I went about booking my venue and vendors was I went from the most expensive to the least. I also talk about how much everything cost in this video, so if you want my budget breakdown and you want to know how much I paid for literally everything, go watch this video right here. Okay, so now that you have everything booked and you know exactly when everyone is coming in and leaving, you can build your timeline skeleton. So making our timeline was so hard, and ultimately it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong way of doing something if you're doing it for the right reasons. At the end of the day, it's all about what you want to happen first, your traditions, and honestly, like, what matters to you the most. So here's what our skeleton looked like. We had ceremony at 5, followed by cocktail hour, then the grand entrance, then dinner, then cake cutting, and the dance floor officially opened, and then the end. So I did it this way because I wanted to put down the important events first and then add in all the details and everything else in between. So let's talk about the pre-ceremony and what happens during this time. Okay, so now I need my laptop because we are gonna get into the details. Some important things to note during this time are things like your bridal party arrival and what time you, the bride, are arriving to the venue. You also want to note the time for pictures. So if you're doing first look, detail shots, bridal party pictures, I mean, the list can go on and on and on, so just make sure to write that down. Another thing that can happen during this time is the ceremony rehearsal. If you didn't have a rehearsal party, then this is the time you would do that. Now, during this rehearsal, I wasn't there. As the bride, my only job is to literally walk down the aisle with my dad, so everyone else was doing the rehearsal while I was in the bridal room doing detail shots and other pictures. My ceremony was at 5 p.m. and usually ceremonies last about 30 to 45 minutes. And here on my timeline, I added things like the songs that were going to be played and then the order of the bridal party. Okay, now we're at cocktail hour, and during this time, there are more pictures, and if you have to flip furniture from ceremony to cocktail hour, you should write that down and you should write who's doing it. So for me, during this time, I had family pictures at the altar. So it was like immediate family only. It was my family, his family, and then like a big group pictures. And while that was happening, the venue staff that I hired was moving the chairs and florals from ceremony to cocktail hour. And then during cocktail hour, a lot of couples decide to step away and have a moment for themselves. We wanted to go out and say hi to everyone and just start enjoying our day. So we did go outside, and then during this time, while we said hi to everyone, our photographer was doing documentary style pictures. At 6:30, our cocktail hour ends, which meant the caterer had to pick up the grazing table and put that away. So I had to give them like 10 minutes to just really get everything out of the way and in order so that we can have our grand entrance. And at 6:45 was our first dance, and that was my favorite part of the day. It was just me and him dancing. I forgot my entire routine. I mean, honestly, I forgot everything that day. It was so bad, but it worked out. And then the way that we ended our first dance was that, so it ended and then everyone joined us on the dance floor. So we had like a slow dance, and then that turned into like a fun salsa dance. And then the DJ was like, okay, everyone come out to the dance floor and join them. So yeah, immediately following our first dance was like light dancing and some drinks. And then at 7:30 we had dinner. We had a buffet style, so the caterers had to make sure to have that area all set and ready to go by 7:30. And this was also the time that I scheduled a vendor break. I had prepaid for meals, and the caterer made little like to-go boxes. So my vendors got their meals, and then while everyone ate, they also ate. At 8 p.m. we did our speeches and toast, and this was towards like the end of dinner. So it's very important that if you're doing your speech during this time, to have whoever is talking to go and get their food first so that they are done before everyone else. And then following the speeches and toast, at 8:25 we had our parent and family dance, and that included father-daughter dance, groom and mom dance, and then our family dance. In our culture, it's tradition to have your aunts and uncles and grandparents dance with you. And then at 8:45, after all of that, we had a little break, which was just more music and drinks. We were out in the garden. It was summer, so I wanted my guests to really enjoy being out there and just having a good time. However, we did have a noise curfew and no music was allowed outside after 10 p.m. So we had to find a way to naturally get everyone from the garden back inside. So at 9 p.m. we had the cake cutting. So the DJ announced, please everyone walk inside for cake and a group picture. And then after we cut the cake, the DJ was like, okay, everyone now get together for a group picture. And he counted down 3, 2, 1, and at the end he dropped the beat. He started playing the song Nueva York by Bad Bunny, and that was the official start to the dance party. And I thought it was so clever to pick that song because it was summer in New York, and Bad Bunny at that time was like, well, I mean, he still is popping off, but at that time, that song was all over New York, and it just made so much sense to have that. Now, everything that comes after the dance floor officially opening was like the easiest thing to add on my timeline. At this point, I got married, I did my speech, I did all the dances. I am a happy bride and I no longer care about anything. So the next things on my timeline were a bouquet toss at 10 p.m., last call at 11 p.m., and then the bar closed at 11:30, and 12 a.m. was the official end time of the DJ and also the official end time of the night. Now, seeing it this way can be very overwhelming. On this side here, I have the vendors' times, when they start and finish, all color-coded. Then in the middle, I have my timeline, and then on the side here, I have my notes and like details, and it's a lot. So I did not want to send this to my vendors and just be like, here you go, good luck, I'll see you on the 30th. So to make it less overwhelming, we did a visual timeline, and it was so well received by every vendor. They all came back to me and said, this is so good, I've never seen this before. And it included everything. I mean, everything that someone might think of was in this binder. So we included a visual timeline, and it was broken down into sections and color coded. So all the yellow was bridal party, the pink was joy, and then the blue was DJ. That way they knew exactly where they had a major role to play. We also had a vendor directory with all their information. That way if Joy had to contact the caterer or the DJ or photographer, she had their emails and their phone numbers there. And then we had a setup guide. So in my previous video, I talk about how we did almost everything, like stationery, florals, the ceremony setup, table setup. We literally did everything. So we had to tell Joy and our friends who were helping to set up how we wanted it to be all set up. So what we did was, at home, we did like a table mock-up of exactly how we wanted the table to be set up, with the florals, cups, our stationery. It was all there for Joy. And thank God that we did, because when Joy arrived, the tables outside were not set up the right way, and she was like, hold on, this does not align with the binder, we need to fix it. And they fixed it and it was solved. So thank God that we did this, because it saved us a bunch of time. So the timeline and everything else that we included is just half of the binder. It's just this section right here. We also included things like our marriage license that we had to sign and get signed. And then we also included the tips. So Joy gave those out to the vendors as they exited. And then post our wedding, we just added things that we wanted to remember. So like our wedding vision board, our wedding numbers, our menu cards, our invitations, because we designed everything and we just wanted to keep that as a memory. And that's it. So it's not that bad. I mean, let's be real for a second, okay? The week leading up to your wedding, whether you have a wedding planner or not, is going to be the most stressful time of your life. I don't think I slept 6 hours any day that day. The night before our wedding, we each got like 4 hours because we were up doing the florals all night. Like, do I recommend you doing everything yourself? No. If you can get the help, hire the help. But we could not get that. We were not going to pay 10, 15K for flowers when we could do it ourselves. I don't regret not hiring the help. It was a nice moment to bond with Jordy and anyone else that was helping us do these things. So, no regrets, but it will be very, very stressful and you will need all hands on deck. So, if you are the groom watching this, do not leave your partner to do everything by herself because she will kill you. So happy planning. Everything that I mentioned is linked below. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment, DM me, message me, and I am happy to help. And with that, I'll see you next time for a brand new video. Bye!